Hello, everyone. This is our first time foraying into something else other than a full episode of LCS. We used to do this. Remember, Dom? I think we did a little bit of LEC or ULCS at the time. Early on.
But that was when I was literally the only person on the show that watched it. So I would literally just have a conversation with myself for like 20 minutes, like a insane person. I would just go on some like random like European rant, and I'd be like, "Right, guys," and then you guys would be like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's continue.
That sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Fanatic. Those are the days. Well, the times after LCS and the times after the major regions are done is a time where it slows down, but we're still giving you the content today on Facecheck as we dive into the LCK and tackle in some of the news that happened. So we had all the major regions and minor regions finish up their leagues, so we now know who the campeones are for the spring or clausura or first half of the season is for most of these regions, and myself, Dom, and Ellis here to break down the action in episode 14. So let's start. Let's back up a little bit. Dom, you tweeted up the photo of your house and things looked beautiful and great. How was your week, man?
It's been great. I've been taking pretty much the week off. My girlfriend's traveling, so I just spent some time with her over the last week, kind of taking a break after the split, and yeah, now I'm ready to start getting back into things. I like to try to make sure that I at least have like a happy period in my life before I start streaming solo queue, so at least I can reflect on it during like the journey, like so when I'm like depressed this fucking week, I can be like, last week wasn't that bad though. So that's kind of my mentality here.
LS, how was your week, brother?
Doom and gloom, Digon, doom and gloom.
I expect nothing less, This was short, sweet, and succinct.
It's like the fucking Addams Family. It's, no big deal, dude.
Yeah. Dude, too bad to that one. There was like one Reddit commenter. It's like, I'm just waiting for the episode where Digon asks LS how he is, and he actually responds with like, not terrible.
Not terrible. I'm good.
Oh, that guy's gonna fucking keep waiting.
Gotta wait for another week. Unfortunately, Joe is not with us today, so it's just me at the helm. So any of the production issues, that's on me. Also, that means LS is back to the wonderful LS GIF, LSXYZ GIF, or whatever the name of the image is. What's the name of the image?
The best. LSXYZ. I mean, yeah, I don't know the name of it. I mean, yeah.
Why did you make your name LSXYZ originally?
That is
on Twitter.
So I tried to get the ID LS, but that bitch wouldn't sell it to me. So
whoa. God damn.
She told me she would sell it to me, right? And then I offered her $1,000, and I think she wrote like LMFAO. Like it was too low. Right now, this is back in what, 2014 or something, right?
That's expensive. You were like homeless and shit. You're like, that was my entire life savings for the fucking ID.
Yeah. So she she just wouldn't give it to me. And then I tried to offer more, then she unfollowed me. And then a few years later, she just like actually changed it to something else. Like she just dropped the LS handle, but Twitter no longer lets you get the two ID handles.
Right.
So, we tried to, I tried to get the 2-letter handle, like at 2 different points or something, but apparently 2-letter handles are actually worth 6 figures.
Yes.
Fuck.
I didn't know
figures?
That. Yeah. Wait, so that's why Twitter doesn't give them out. There has to be like a real reason to give out a 2-letter handle.
So there's like random people that when Twitter started in like 2009 or 2008 or whenever the fuck Twitter started, they just copped a bunch of like 2-letter handles, and now they just deal out like 2-letter handles for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's the profession. Well, is that what you're telling me?
I think it's like actually I don't think it's legal to sell it, but I think that there's like ways that you can go about that. Yeah.
I think it is legal to sell it because there was a story that like the Dallas Cowboys did not have like DallasCowboys.com. It's like a domain, right? It's like digital real estate.
Right.
And so that guy was offered millions of dollars by Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And he's like, no, I'm a so-and-so fan, and just kept the domain.
Wait, that's actually like, I would love to just be in the position in life where I could decline millions of dollars just like and not care, just off principle, and to piss people off. That must feel so good.
Yeah, but I assume that if he has that, he probably made a lot of other money earlier on in like the .com boom. So like when I got just the handle DGOD, like, so if 2-letter is like 6 figures, 3-letter is like 5 figures. DGOD was like worth 4 figures, and I was happy with that, because again, the smaller the acronym, the more valuable it is, because people want that thing. They want that. So
what the fuck?
XYZ.
Yeah, Twitter handles. Yeah, Twitter handles are pretty collectible. XYZ was just. I mean, I don't know.
Wait, I have a question.
So I needed something to add to LS, right? But LS9 wasn't available. I wasn't gonna add a team handle, and so rather than just like ABC, I just did the invert to ABC.
Okay. What about Last Shadow?
Okay.
Yeah, that one I'm interested in.
Yeah.
How did you end up?
Yeah. What about I Will Dominate?
That one too.
Wait,
we're going into the etymology of
it. Literally sounds like the Twitch ID you'd find in an Indie Fox stream. Jesus Christ!
I'm gonna get her to fucking write it on herself. I don't care.
$100.
Like, wait, do you get to choose like what? You know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna even ask if you get to choose where you write it. Wait, I have a question, because I've only started hearing like hearing in the last like 4 or 5 years about like International Women's Day. How long has that been a thing?
That's probably that's probably what,
because it's fairly recent, right? Like I know growing up I never knew about that stuff, or at least it wasn't popular.
I didn't either, and I want to.
Okay, so.
Here's my thing.
Can I sue International Women's Day for taking the IWD acronym?
I'm pretty sure you'd lose that one, Dom. I think
it was recognized as a national week in 1980. It was before you were IWD.
God damn it! All right, never mind.
I forgot that those are the same ones. I forgot those are the same acronyms. How did you end up with IWD? Was this like
it was a smurf. So I just randomly typed something in the chat box, because I played Dota like semi-competitively. Like, because it was only really semi-competitive, but like I played Dota, I was like sponsored and stuff when I was 15 years old. And people just knew me from Dota. Like my ID was Sunny V, which was like a combination of my 2 dogs' names. I made the ID when I was like 11 or 12 years old, because I was like, oh, I love my dogs. Like, I'm just gonna have my dogs in my username. So people knew me by that name. So when I started playing League, like people would be like cringe and like fanboy me and stuff. And I just didn't want anyone to like, I mean, look, it's so nice to like not have people randomly type at you and like be ridiculously cringe in games, right? So I just wanted to have a name that no one recognized me under. And then because like this was the name that I ended up like getting really high rated on the ladder for, I didn't want to change it, because I was like, fuck, if I change it, like that was before like Twitter and stuff was big. And I was like, damn, if I change my name now. And you couldn't name change in the client or anything. Like there wasn't like a name change option in the client. So it was like, if I get a new account up here, or if I like go by a different name, then maybe people will recognize me. And that was like before I was in a top team. I wasn't in Dignitas yet. I was in Complexity, which was like a top 6 team. And I was like, I want everyone to like know who I am and at least be consistent with the name, so that like I have better opportunities down the line.
Makes sense. Well, I didn't know there wasn't name change. When did Riot add that?
Like there was name change in season 2, season 3, but you had to like send an email to them and like do it through like a ticket. It was like a whole process, and then it sometimes would take like months to do. And I was so fucking lazy. I was like, I'm never gonna do this shit. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when name change was added in the client. Probably like 2013, 2014, something like that.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. Speaking of emails to Riot to signify some changes, we had a big one come through this weekend. Actually, 2 come through this weekend from one of our favorite orgs to chat about. 100 Thieves They made a big move here in the LCS, signing former Schalke mid laner Abbedagge away from the soccer club. And now they have 3 mid laners with Tommy Boy and Demonte there. But you figure Abbedagge is coming in and starting for the squad. They also announced the signing of former Cloud9 coach, Jin SKT player Reapered. Not that anyone ever remembers that. Reapered, we last saw him in the summer split of 2020 after the team failed to make it to Worlds after winning their first championship in 4 years. I think it was 4 years, the LCS title. But yeah, 100 Thieves making these moves. Ellis, what do you... What jumps out at you when you see these moves that Papa Smithy announced this past weekend?
So originally when I saw both, I didn't understand what was going on.
Let me tell you. So what actually happened was Someday played so fucking bad last split that they just gave him residency. They were just like, dude, you shouldn't even count as an import anymore, and they just let him have it. So that's what happened. They saw that Jace. They saw that fucking Jace. They're like, "That's NA right there. You're one of us now."
God damn it! All right,
Jesus
so
Christ.
Abba. So I was with Someday getting residency. I was actually I don't know. I was half expecting Korean import, and I thought that they would try to go for someone in the Korean market, or they would try to make a trade or like some sort of a buyout, right? Even though it's mid-split, because there are a lot of players on the benches in Korea that I think a lot of players don't know about, especially because challengers in Korea got no English broadcast. So like if people recognize how good Gumayushi is, right, on T1's like 10-man roster thingy, other teams have players that are actually insane, but no one sees them play. So it's not that like even the starters in LCK aren't necessarily purchasable, because I think that they are. I think most of them are. So when I saw that 100 Thieves went for Abbedagge, I'm just sort of like, what? Because I mean, it's not going to make you win NA. So I feel like this move is just it's
to try to get third. It's to try to get third.
Worlds, right. Yep. Just to get to Worlds. And it rubs me wrong, because I feel like you could try to get to Worlds, but also have you could have probably made better options. And then the Reapered thing, when I saw that was a head scratcher and a half, because I think that I've made a lot of my thoughts on the recycling of staff very known over the years. Obviously Reapered, I wasn't expecting him to ever end up returning to a team in any capacity. I thought that was really weird, just in general, that pickup. I don't think there's a lot of conjecture that always goes on with coaches. Lot.
Sure. Yeah.
It's so weird to imagine, because Ziggs got released, right?
Yep.
But I understand that like there's God, this is such a finicky rope, huh? It's really weird for me. I don't think it'll do anything. That's the TLDR. It won't do anything. I mean, the player signing is all that will matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like staff changes are kind of hard, and you know what's so telling is when you go watch the video with Papa Smithy and Reapered, and you hear them like talk, and like Papa Smithy's like, yeah, and the goal is to potentially win, and then like Reapered's like, top 2 would be I hope we get top 2. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, you can't even like give us some bullshit. You can't even confidently lie on your fucking intro to the team. You can't even be like, and we're here to win it. Like, I could fucking lie. I could look the viewers in the eye. Like, look, I wouldn't have quit streaming if I didn't want to win LCS. And that's always going to be the goal. And I know we can do it. I've done it before. Like, if I was Reaper, I would have said some shit. I did it last year. I could do it again this year. Like, we got even none of that. He's like, yeah, I mean, I hope we could get top 2, maybe. Like, what the fuck?
No,
actually crazy.
No, man. I like how they balanced each other out, right? This acknowledgement of, hey, we messed up this year, we didn't get where we wanted to, reaffirming the transparency that Papa Smithy has promised, and then his eternal optimism with like Reaper being like, yeah, well, you know, like being for real, top 2 works, right? So let's touch on Abbedagge a little bit here, just because for people that don't know, the pandemic has hit everybody hard, but kind of like the basketball teams that we've seen here in the LCS, they've had to scale down, like Golden Guardians, like FlyQuest. The same thing happened with the soccer clubs in Europe, specifically Schalke, and they've been very transparent about how financially they've been hit across all of soccer operations. It was almost to the point where the club was going to go bankrupt and they were going to just disappear, right? They didn't have money to function. So they were looking at all options. They sacked like a lot of their soccer team staff. They were looking at the LEC team. And so this move makes sense for them. How does this make sense for Abbedagge to go from LEC with probably better teammates to 100 Thieves and now have a lot of pressure of being the piece?
He probably got a fat fucking contract. That's how it makes sense. Like I heard the buyout was like insane, and like his contract was like pretty handsome. So I think that's just what it is. Also, it's probably easier to make worlds in NA compared to EU. Like if you look at where they are in EU, it's like, okay, so how are they going to be better than Rogue, Mad Lions, or G2? It's probably easier to join 100 Thieves and make 100 Thieves better than TSM. Like much easier goal. So I think not only will he be able to potentially make worlds easier, he's going to get paid more. And yeah, it's going to be, generally speaking, I would think that even though there's going to be more eyes on him, I would assume that it's probably less stressful than playing in LEC.
Yeah, the couple of things that popped up on Reddit yesterday, it was $1 million or euros, sorry, for the transfer of Abbedagge from 100 Thieves to Schalke, and that Nuclear Int, their academy mid laner, will be bumping up. That is the 2 announcements there. Ellis, how do you feel like Abbedagge fits into this? Like, what is he getting out of here?
So in LCS, I mean, I don't think it's gonna change any dynamic in mid. I know that sounds pretty weird, but I don't think there's gonna be anything different. Also, what I expect is if we follow any sort of tradition, he's gonna experience decline due to playing in an A. So once he declines, and then once I mean, I don't think he's a star player at all, right? So that's why I think the acquisition's really, really, really fucking weird. Think once he's in an A and he begins to experience decline, which he inevitably will in summer, that means that the level that we're expecting him from Schalke probably won't be his level, which is really fucking insane to think about. And I think we just end up getting a player that's serviceable or passable, right? But does that necessarily convert into a third place? I don't know. I mean, they're only really competing against TSM, right? Like
right.
That's ultimately
I
what
think
it is.
there is a true race there for that third place, though. So
sure, yeah, sure. I mean, I think I could see that happening. Like, my big concern or thought process is what happens in the off season with Riot and the import rule and all this other stuff. Because then I think that gets revisited. The other thing about this move for him is, like, let's say that his paycheck is really big, right? Abbedagge.
Sure.
When you go to NA and then you pay the taxes, especially California, right? You lose a lot of money there. But if you perform poorly in NA, it's probably going to be hard to go back to LEC. So in a weird turn of events, I feel like, I don't know how old he is, but I think this happens with players a lot. They're really short-sighted. It's either perform well in NA, or he might have gotten paid a lot in isolation, but I think if he had stayed in LEC, he probably would have had a more tenured career. Whereas now I think it's probably unlikely he can go back to it. And so now this is do or die, and post-taxes, his earned income is probably less than what he would have netted by staying in LEC for like long-term, or I mean, obviously that's just theorizing, but I don't think a lot of people think about this stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to throw it out there, because it felt like that, right? Is a middle tier mid laner, possibly as he slots into the LCS, but maybe that's all 100 Thieves needs. And to your point about not being able to go back, we've seen other players go back, right? We saw Kabe come take the TSM contract and then
he played pretty bad and then,
and then he moved back over to, was it Misfits? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So not that it's unprecedented, and I think when you make a move like this, you're not trying to mitigate your losses, you're trying to maximize your gains. And so the upside for Abbedagge being here is getting to Worlds and being a valuable part and joining a team that has been searching for that answer. So
probably gets free 100 Thieves merch as well. So pretty fire. I mean, that's pretty fire. Like,
that is, wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that one, Dom. That was
that tilts the scales. That tilts the scales.
Yeah.
Schalke was just giving them T-shirts to go play in because they couldn't afford new jerseys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it just shows that 100 Thieves mentality is that they really thought both their mid laners sucked. Like they didn't have any like, hope of like returning Damonte into the lineup and like playing around him and like having like his own like unique play style. Like they didn't try like the fucking, not like, we saw Nocturne cart this around the world. We saw Kled mid in LPL from doing B. I mean, we've seen Scion mid. We saw teams running set mid. We see a ton of fucking Renekton mid around the world. Like, these are all stereotypical Damonte champions that would fit into his playstyle. There wasn't even the thought of maybe they could do that. They didn't, like, they went to Ryoma. They only played control mages, and then they're like, yeah, Ryoma's just kind of ass on control mages. Like, it's still just Tommy, And then they just replaced him immediately following the split.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Wait, was Ryoma officially was he replaced?
There's no announcement.
So here's what I think.
All three of them are currently under contract, I'd imagine. Let me look at the database.
So
playing a goddamn game for Abbedagge in the split. That's what
I would imagine that Ryoma is probably kept on the academy and Damonte is not.
Yes.
Because
Damonte's already
saying. Here's why. Okay. So Ryoma's from OC. So they don't have salaries anymore, or at least maybe if they do, it's not very well, right? There's no infrastructure there anymore. Damonte probably won't play for no money, whereas Ryoma probably will. So I think that when that goes hand in hand, it's just going to end up probably meaning that Ryoma stays on Academy and Damonte doesn't.
Oh, Damonte's 100% gone. You can already tell that he's like, I mean, he's pretty much just showing that he wants to retire in all of his tweets. Like, all of his tweets are like, one door closes, another one opens. Like, you don't say shit like that if you're like, and I'm going to play another split of Academy. Like, that's not what the.
What is he supposed to say? What is he supposed to say?
Well, no, but I'm just saying that, like,
you would just rather him say nothing.
Well, no. I'm not saying that he shouldn't say anything. I'm saying that what he's saying is he's going to retire.
That's fair. Okay.
Like, he keeps on talking about, like, I mean, I'm just going to go through his tweets. Gonna write up something within the next week or two about my future. When one door closes, another one opens. That's not somebody who's going to, like, continue playing
like
League.
Retirement stuff, yeah.
That's like 100% like some shit's going to come out. Like, yeah, I had an amazing, like, 4 years in League of Legends. Ended up going to, like, Worlds once. Never was able to win a trophy, but I'm happy with, like, my career and meeting all the fucking people along the way or some bullshit like that. Like, that's what is going to happen, I assume.
I just want to point out how it wasn't too long ago to where everyone was saying that he was one of the top mids in LCS, right? But it, like, regardless of the accuracy of that comment, right? If that's actually the case, I mean, that actually just tells you how bad mid lane is in North America. So, it's kind of rough.
I mean, it's pretty rough. I mean, NA mids here are just, like, kind of doomed. Like, wait, who's the best NA mid right now?
Pobe.
Like, actual...
Yeah,
Pobe
like, who's the best? Yeah, it's like Palafox, maybe? Pobelter, maybe?
Pobe or Insanity. Is it Palafox?
I mean, Pobe and Insanity, I mean, yeah, like, it's just a bunch of, like, bottom tier mid laners. Like, you could say any of them.
Yeah,
but, like, none of them...
I'm higher on Insanity than I think...
But isn't that crazy that we don't have one, like, talented NA mid? Like, we don't have one player in our region in the mid lane position that can at least compete with the top players.
So this is pretty interesting. So if I use a reference to other games, this is I think mid lane. I think it draws a really close parallel to, like, Terran in StarCraft. where there's no North American Terrans, and there was barely any Europeans, but it's like the nature of the race.
Oh yeah, it's because that's a human race. So joke.
Holy.
All right, well,
move on. I'm gonna get banned again. I can feel it. I start
right?
feeling like a random like fire within me when I'm on the verge of getting banned. So we gotta get out of here.
Here's the thing, everybody. Like Dom at least is recognized. He's moved on so much, but he can't hold through the urges. You know, and he'll put out a zinger every once or twice. So you know,
yeah, I'm like going through rehab. You know, I'm like an addict that, you know, like has to stay away from things. But you know, like I every now and then have relapses where I just start flaming again.
We look through the comments here in Twitch chat. Hello, Twitch chat. We see you today. You're seen, Monkass. I think Monka W. It was a lot of Pobe, a lot of Insanity, and then they are throwing out a lot of the Academy guys. So Five Fire, APA for Barrage.
I mean, you can't even you can't say a guy that's never played LCS is the best one.
I know.
If unless you've seen some glimpses or some level them play against the top competition. Like you need to see how they perform in pressure situations against people like Perks, against PoE, against Jensen, all those guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, did we miss any other LCS news? I think that was all the LCS news that we had this week. 100 Thieves just kind of taking the bull by the horns there. Oh, the other question I wanted to ask about that move is for people at home, mid-season moves are difficult to make because most players are under contract and orgs will make you pay a ton of money to sign them, which is why this Abbedagge being on Schalke being in financial ruin opened up an opportunity to get a European mid laner for 100 Thieves, right? And maybe to LS's earlier point about other teams in Korea having mid laners or players on the bench, it's probably a lot harder to scout. With the resources that they have internally. Should they find a Korean scout? Absolutely. But maybe that they just don't have that. And so they go with Abbedagge there. So do you feel like 100 Thieves making this move now, at this stage, is a good thing? If teams are going to make a move for the summer half of the LCS season, they need to do it early and they need to strike like 100 Thieves did, because that felt pretty.
It smells of desperation to me. It smells like they are so fucking desperate. They really thought both of their mid laners had no chance of improving to a level that would make them a contender, and they felt like they needed to do something. And it's not like they even went out and got some top tier import. Abbedagge wasn't a top 3 mid laner in LEC, right? No one would say that. Humanoid, Larson, and Caps were miles above him. Niski performed better than him over the course of the split as well. This is a middle of the pack LEC mid, but they think that their mid is so bad that they need anyone.
Well, we thought their mid was so bad too. We did any tier list would have Tommy Boy 9th, maybe 8th, right?
Yeah.
So LS, do you feel like any of the other teams should have made moves this early, or if they make a move now, it's too late to get the practice in or anything like that?
Oh, I mean, I think TSM probably should have blown up the whole roster. I mean, but
Jesus.
And, I mean, I mean, TSM might legitimately not make Worlds, right? That's pretty scary. And I thought, given that they already cosplayed the Joker burning $6 million, I thought, you know what, why not burn a little bit more in between splits and try to maybe get other players? But it doesn't seem like that's probably going to be the case. So I don't know. I'm not totally sure what TSM's game plan is, because they've really this is one of those really, really, really delusional things where even if you can improve in summer and actually make Worlds, through what does it actually matter, right? Because the level that you can actually have a turnover in summer or magically improve or anything, right? We would have already seen glimpses of the intention behind it in spring, right? It's not something that you just turn a new leaf, you wake up one morning and decide, oh, you know what, we're actually just gonna, everything's just gonna go well. Power Reveal is gonna turn into Chovy. We're gonna have fucking Canyon level pathing from Spica. Like this is not gonna happen. So it's really weird because I feel like it cements the idea that there's no care about Worlds. Because even if you improve in summer and you win LCS, wow, congratulations, you're still getting knocked out in groups.
There's no chance that happens in my mind. I think TSM, I mean, I think there's zero chance TSM actually is able to win. I mean, they look so disorganized. And then the other thing is I don't even feel like they have like the player talent level. Like the players just don't look strong enough. Like when you look at Lost, I mean, he doesn't seem like he's championship level. Like Sword Art is just Sword Art.
So the issue with Lost, sorry, do you want to go?
No, go for it.
The issue with Lost for me is that he's a dangerous player if he gets gold in a game, in the sense that he will play the same way with or without gold. So if he actually gets gold, it's bad. It's not good for you. He's gonna play the same way in fights. He's gonna do the same things. He's gonna do everything the same, right? Yeah. I don't think that there is upside there, right? I mean, I think Sword Art is bad. I don't think he should have been imported anyway. And then
he's a shot caller. That's why you see them consistently give up Soul for Baron, because he's a shot caller.
Right. Perfect. I mean, it's Power of Evil and Speaker are their two best players. Yeah. But then I don't know.
And they're limited, right? Like that's the thing is like when Power of Evil is one of your best players, like it just means that you're never winning a championship, because he's not going to be able to do the things that like other people do in crunch time to win a championship. Like he's so easy to read, and I feel like that's why he doesn't end up winning a lot of like 5-game series down the line. Is people just understand it's like, okay, what are the mages that he's playing a lot right now? Ban one out, like play one matchup that you're comfortable in, you're good. Like you don't have to like yeah. Whereas like other players are way more scary to play against, where like throughout, like when you go down the stretch, it's like, okay, they can play this. Like, I mean, is he gonna? Can you ever see PoE pulling out Silas in Game 5 versus TL, and then like roaming the map, getting 1 million kills, and like starting the game snowball? Like, no, Game 5 PoE, he's gonna just be like CSing. It's like, oh, nice, our Orianna has a 10 CS advantage. That's not gonna win you these games, man. Like his teammates aren't good enough for that to be the thing. I think PoE is the type of person that you plug in as like a secondary carry to like really great players. Like I think that honestly, if you put PoE on 100 Thieves, I feel like that would have been like a better team than TSM. Like he's so much better at operating when other people are threats in the games and he can just do his job. He's not going to be like somebody who's going to really like clutch out a series. He just doesn't have it in him. So I think the TSM right now, I mean, I'm going to make the comparison later, but I feel like TSM right now is just a pretty like scared team. Like it feels like they're always doing worse than you'd expect. Like they're always worse than the sum of their parts. And yeah, I mean, they just make confusing decisions all the time. So I can't imagine everyone always looking so much worse at TSM and not thinking that the org pressure has something to do with it.
Well, so just so people don't think that we're like I'm just randomly shitting on TSM or something like that, right? Like or like players individually. No. But like I think if you took Chovy, right, and you put Chovy in TSM, they'd probably win NA, but it wouldn't mean anything in Worlds. Like that's how bad I think all the surroundings are, and I think how they play in general and the intent behind all their ideas and everything is. I think even if you had like Chovy in mid lane, you might win NA. You might. Jesus, Chovy just starts fucking running into the fountain. Jesus Christ. Like Chovy starts playing Fasting Sun and he gets no CS. Like... Oh my god,
man! Actually, I feel like it would be a perfect place for Chovy. I feel like Chovy is just so used to just like being in the fucking barren wasteland. Like, I don't know what type of skeletons Chovy has in his closet, but I mean, he doesn't fucking deserve the shit that he goes through. Let me tell you, like, I've been watching him in LCK, and it's like, man, like when you get sentenced to fucking Johan jungle, something went wrong in your life. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my god, too good.
All right, we'll get to the LCK after this. Quick hit on the other news that kind of came out from the league world. Oh, that was wrong transition. Whatever. Gigabyte Marines not able to battle the Vietnamese government and get themselves out safely and entry back into the country during the pandemic, and will not be able to attend MSI. This obviously then stunts the return of Levi in the world stage yet again, right? Who previously was on 100 Thieves. That was that 100 Thieves project. Wow. That tied in great. I definitely planned that. So no Gigabyte Marines, as they were able to win the VCS over the weekend, which means the group stage looks a little bit like this. Now Group C, these aren't the right groups, but whatever. I think it's not the right groups. But the group that has, I think it's Group A, is RNG, Unicorns of Love, and Penta.
Pentanet.gg or whatever.
Yeah. That group now is lacking a team here, and it is a pot 2 team, right? Because the VCS is now considered a tier 2 squad, just like NA. It's great, it's fine. So Group C, now that means one of those teams will probably have the opportunity to get out between Unicorns of Love and the LCO representative, formerly known as OP, I guess the former of OPL or OCE. So how does this change things, and thoughts on how Riot is putting this on, and has done a lot to mitigate the issues of the pandemic to still put on a live in-person event, but just not quite able to get it over the line here with with a Vietnamese representative.
I mean, I personally just feel like the MSI format now is like a glorified play-in stage with like no payoff. Like at least in Worlds, you get the play-in stage and you're like, whatever. Like we watched a bunch of like pretty bad games, but at the end of the day, you still get your group stage and like you get your like hype. This is like you just edge the entire time and then you just never get to nut. That's what like MSI is. It's just like, maybe we get one series between like Damwon and RNG. That's like the only thing you really look forward to. I just feel like it's just a glorified play. Like, I just don't want to watch like that many games of these teams is like the issue. Like, I don't think that these teams have realistic shots to win. So I would much rather have like a smaller play-in stage like they used to have, and then just like get more games in the group stage than get this where like, I don't know, like it just, I'm just not hyped for a lot of these like groups. Like, I feel like a lot of the groups are just going to have one team stomping the rest and then like a bunch of shit shows between like the bottom to middle tier teams. All I'm saying is the Super League was a good idea, chat. All right, get it through your fucking heads. All right, and we're calling it soccer too. You mad? What are you gonna do? Our show.
No. Edit this part out. Oh my gosh. LS. Did you have thoughts there?
I mean, yeah, I agree with Dom that MSI is it feels a little bit weird because like Worlds plans, right? Like it's okay to watch at the very start, but then as it drags on, it starts to get a little bit weird. And I think what he's saying about, there's going to be little opportunity to see the big matchups end up colliding. That is kind of strange. Also, it will have been like so long, right? Since competitive. I mean, it had been a while, right? And then it's going to end May 22nd.
Yeah,
I think May 22nd, and
When's
then
the start of
the
LCS?
leagues. So LCS, I don't know. I
June,
think
normally,
so.
right?
LCK always starts on a Wednesday, so I think it's the third Wednesday of June.
Mm-hmm.
LCK always starts, so then it starts.
Help us out, chat.
16th?
When does LCS start?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe LCS is like the 10th.
Interesting.
Trying to remember.
We're gonna have a long month and a half, LS. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's gonna be rough out here for us.
Yeah,
Jesus.
someone said June 4th, but I guess we'll see. I think one of the reasons why they made this change was because I think he downplayed how much people didn't like having a play-in stage and watching just the smaller regions play against each other and then never have the opportunity to play against a top tier team. I don't mind this format here for MSI. Like if it was for Worlds, very different. But for MSI, it's like, hey, it's cool. Let's see, you know, the Aussies take on RNG. Let's see.
I mean, we do get to see that.
You want to see the Aussies? Oh man, I'm just so tired. I don't want to see the Aussies take on RNG. That's so fucked up. Like that literally shouldn't even be streamable. Like I think that you should literally get in trouble by the government for like this.
It's a spectacle. It's like the chiller fights. You're not there to watch,
be streamable on
great
That's
matches.
in the same. That's in the same fucking category
Jake Paul get
as
knocked the fuck out, and that didn't happen.
That's the same category of as hot tub streams right there. Like that should not be on Twitch. That should be on a different site, being able to display RNG versus LCO. That is too much.
That's rude.
That is rude.
Listen, we have top teams versus wildcard teams all the time. Okay, NA get great teams in groups every year.
Okay.
That was
Just collect the W and move on. Jesus,
man. That was. We all saw that one coming. We couldn't escape.
Jesus.
Let's see. So it's Damwon from Korea, Gillette Infinity from the LLA, C9 for LCS, Detonation Focus Me from the LJL, Mad Lions from the LEC. Good old PSG Talent again from the PCS. Then it's the Istanbul Wildcats that upset Holy Phoenix, right? Who was on that?
No, Holy Phoenix is on this, and Bull Wildcats. Pretty sure that's his team.
Okay. They upset the
Supermassive.
Yeah, it was Supermassive. Oh no, it was 1907 Fenerbahce, and then BRTT makes his return to the global stage on Pain Gaming. I think I hit everybody. So all the fans that are there in the chat, and we said your team name. Oh, sorry, Unicorns of Love, Penta, and RNG.
Just crazy that BRTT is proving again that he's better than Double Lift by making another international appearance. That's just insane. It is what it is. Like if you don't think BRTT is better than Double Lift at this point, you're just delusional.
Yeah, I'm staying silent. So Digon, let's
get out of here, dude. Last thing I wanted to hit on before we go into full LCK mode. LPL had their finals. Many people predicted FPX taking the win, but RNG came back. Maybe a star is born in the bot lane for RNG. Post Uzi trying to chase the likes of Double Lift and BRTT. It's Gala who showed up huge here and threw some sand in
that guy is a freak.
LWX's eyes.
He is so good. He's so good.
And LWX forgot how to play, or Gala played insanely well.
No. LWX, for people that don't watch LPL, LWX literally runs it down every team fight, every single game for the entire fucking season. Like, this guy literally ran it down the entire split, and FPX was just so fucking good that it didn't matter. Like, Nuggery was playing so well, Doonby was playing so well. Like, Crisp was so insane. Like, everyone else was so good that it never mattered that LWX ran it down. This was the first time that they actually, like, had a series where LWX solo lost it. Whereas, like, before, you watch, like, even, like, the fucking famous clips, right? Like, the Doonby Victor Pentakill. Watch that clip. The clip starts with LWX on Kai'Sa just inting into the whole enemy team and then flashing out and dying. Like, that's the start to the clip. And it's like, Pentakill Doonby. Like, no one even freaked out, you know? It's not even, like, something where you start watching LWX in and, like, the casters are like, oh, my God, what is LWX doing? He goes, like, no, it's none of that. It's just like, oh, LWX into the fight. Okay, so now we're starting it, and Doonby kills everyone. Nice. Like, that's the issue with FPX is that they just don't have an AD carry. Their AD carry, like, is legitimately suicidal in every single fight.
That is one of the things that happened. Also, Nuggery had himself a 1v1 win, a 1v2 win, and also a 1v4 win. If you're a top lane player, or just go do yourself, watch the highlights of that game and watch Nuggery put on a clinic. Like Nuggery and Doonby did their best to try to drag the rest of the team across the line. But I think you have to say something about Xiaohu, longtime stalwart of RNG, along with Uzi before he retired, making the swap to go play top lane and just have to endure and get himself a win. So pretty cool story there for RNG to have their longtime member, longtime mid laner, role swap and find the highest levels of success in another role. I think that was a pretty cool story as well. But man, I don't think there's been a more impressive performance on the losing side than Nuggery in the top side of the map, Dom.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's literally probably the best top laner in the world. Like, if I had to just be honest with it, I mean, when you look at Xiaohu play against anyone else, like Xiaohu can't play against Nuggery the way he plays against other people. Like Xiaohu's his biggest strength is that he has like a huge champion pool. He can play anything top lane. Like he has the mid lane champion pool top. So it makes RNG really dangerous because he can like flex Trist, Lucian, like all these types of picks. Like he's one of the guys where if you blind Gnar, this is what he's gonna play into. He has like all these picks that can just destroy you in the top lane. But Nuggery is actually good enough that those just are no longer like viable. Like he just plays the matchups to perfection. And the thing is, Nuggery has counter picks that other people don't have. I'm gonna make this point in LCK, but I feel like you can tell a lot about a region's mentality based on how they treat Gnar in this current meta, like what they counter pick it with. Like NA, we just don't counter pick Gnar. We just like first pick it because no one can play into it. Like that just says enough about the region right there, right? LEC, they use like Nocturne as a counter because like they like having like that ability to like team fight and like deny vision. Like it's kind of like a unique like ghetto counter, so to speak, because you're like able to like just win based off like denying vision. Then you look at like LCK is more on like the Lulu side of things. So like, oh, it's a Gnar, like we're gonna play like something that's like safe and like scaling. And then you watch like LPL counters to Gnar, and they're just it's just like Aurelia and shit, right? Like if you pick like Gnar, if you pick like Jace, these types of champions into Nuggery, he's just gonna pick Aurelia and like 1v9 the entire game. So I feel like that's the scariest thing, and that's like why I think RNG normally don't even match up well into FPX. If LWX can just hold on, it's a massive top gap every time. So yeah, I don't think there's any top laners going into this tournament that are close to strong enough to match up to like punish Xiaohu the same way Nuggery did. Even like so when you look at like the next perceived 3 best top laners in this tournament, right? Like it should be
Factor.
Yeah, it should be Fudge, who I don't think that Fudge is going to be able to punish Xiaohu like Nuggery did, right? Like I think when you look at Fudge and how he played in NA, he's more of like just like playing like the utility role player role for his team. You look at Armut, he just plays like Wukong and Gnar every single game. Don't think he's going to have many counters to Xiaohu's champion pool. And then you look at Khan, and Khan like plays other picks, but it just feels like when he's not on Sion, Damwon's just not good. Also, like Damwon don't really play through top like ever at this point in like this iteration. So I just feel like Xiaohu is going to be more unleashed on the world stage. Like Nuggery showed that he is exploitable. I just don't think any of the other top laners in this tournament are good enough to do that to him.
Thoughts, Ellis?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the sentiment that the tops at MSI are pretty weird in general, and that Khan is a shell of his former self. Damwon also is a lot worse this year than they were last year. So I think that that's also worrisome, but I still think that Damwon are probably, I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, I did not watch LPL Finals. I saw clips on Reddit, but I did not end up watching it. I've been pretty much away for like the last week from most stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know really what to think. I don't have any expectations for like Cloud9 at the tournament in reality, right? I don't for Mad Lions either. I think it's just going to be LPL versus LCK. Inevitably in the end.
Yep. That's how it feels.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll do a deeper dive in 2 weeks for our pre-MSI episode. This is more of a just quick take on how things changed up with Vietnam not being able to send their representative, and a quick peek after some of the regional finals. Let's move ourselves to the meat and potatoes of this episode. I guess the meat and potatoes were kind of talking LCS still, but the second course, Damwon Gaming and the rest of the LCK, with an LCK expert here, and Dom diving into,
and LS is here too. True.
True.
With our experts here, that's probably how I should have set that up. I set myself up for failure there. Damwon, Kia has taken over the league, as they have all last year as well. But we want to get the insights on this league, make some comparisons to the LCS, and what to expect coming into MSI, and for the casual fan looking into the LCK, what they can expect as we go through some of these teams. So with Damwon Kia, we've hit a lot on it here, and it is mostly the same team. We've seen how Nuggery's departure has altered it a bit. Con on the top side, not being played through as much, doesn't, but what else do we need to know about this team moving into MSI here, LS?
I mean, Damwon's biggest weakness, I mean, we saw it in the LCK, right? They dropped a set to Generation Gaming, and they dropped set to Fred at Breon. But Damwon, they're not the same Damwon from last year with Nuggery, and I think that iteration with Nuggery and Showmaker drawing so much attention, and just pressure overall. Like, Nuggery could go 0-10, and it still just felt scary. He was like one of those players.
He's like that still, man. Like, this guy is so fucking good. Nuggery is actually just next level good.
Yeah, Nuggery is that like Smurf in that like booster Smurf in solo queue that's 0-4 and angry and typing at you.
Yeah,
he's still like carrying the game,
WX. He's the WX boosters from NA. Holy shit!
He's flaming the fuck out of you as he's 0-4, but still carrying. Like...
That's the best comparison I ever heard. Holy fuck, he actually is.
So that's missing now, and Con is like, I don't even know what to. Con's really weird now. I mean I used to be a very big I was very, very big on Con as a player, right? Historically, I'm not really anymore. It's not the same Con, and I think that I'm worried about this narrative actually come MSI, right? Because I feel like it's been a while since Western fans have seen Con, and I think that their memory of him does not match how he is anymore.
Right.
Oh yeah, you think about him, you're like, oh shit, he was like that Fiora guy. He was the guy that like loved Fiora in like every matchup and like would outplay people. He is literally like a fucking role play. He is like Fudge. He is just Fudge.
It's like watching Goldberg. It's like watching some of the old wrestlers wrestle now, and they're like totally out of shape. They've put on like 50 pounds or something. Like, it's just not. It's not the same,
dude. I'm telling you, Con doesn't even look the same as like what. Like, look at Con when he left T1 and went to LPL, and then look at him when he came back. He looks like a different person. He looks like they did something to him in LPL. Like, and his gameplay is completely different. I mean, I feel like the thing about Damwon is when you used to watch them, they played so unique. But before, like they this is gonna sound weird, but they actually played with like two weak sides. Like, their bot lane was weak side and their top lane was weak side. But they were like both so stable and so like capable of just like playing those situations out that it never felt like an issue. And they would just play for like Canyon and Showmaker to like snowball the game, and eventually they would just transition Canyon and Showmaker's power to one of the side lanes and win the game through that. Nuggery was able to get camped and still win lane. Like, yeah, Con just can't do that. Like, Con just will end up like relatively behind, but he'll just play something that scales and he'll show up in the team fight and do his job. I actually feel like when I look at Damwon, the player that's improved the most recently to me is probably Ghost. I thought Ghost was like not that good last year, but I feel like now he's getting a lot better. I'm still not that high on Ghost. Like, I'm just gonna say like it is. Ruler's just fucking better, right? Just Ruler's on a worse team. But when you look at like Ghost, at least now he's taking like more like I guess of a role within team fights. Like, they play more like solid comps. I think that Damwon's drafting is actually like not that bad. It's a lot better than other teams in Korea, like for example like T1 and shit. Sorry LS, but yeah, like I think that this team is way weaker. Like, it's not even that great of a meta for Canyon. I feel like you can't jungle gap people as hard, and I know he's still playing Nidalee, and I know he still plays Graves, but it's just not the same Nidalee and Graves as it was before. Like, they've made changes to the jungle, so I just don't think that Damwon is that strong when I watch them. But it's sad to me that like no one in Korea can even punish Damwon and win games in playoffs when Damwon has bad games. Because now when they have their bad games, they still end up winning. Like, that Renekton Nidalee game in game 2, they should have lost that fucking game. They should have lost whatever the Silas game that they played, or the game where they played in Chovy Silas where they had Seraphine. I don't remember if that was game 1, 2, whichever that game was in that series. They should have lost that game as well. But they just keep on getting away with murder. Like, they keep on just losing. Like, their games that they lose, they don't actually lose. Messed up.
Yeah, I mean, their biggest prowess is still their team fighting. But I mean, there were many games in the LCK where they should have lost and they didn't, like what you're mentioning. I mean, there was the series against Generation Gaming. I mean, they committed a robbery, but I mean, it was them significantly outplaying Gen G, but it was still kind of just weird to watch, and it's kind of sad to watch. I mean, LCK as a region is so strategically impaired and stunted. It is a little bit sad there. But yeah, I don't know.
That was a big that was a big statement.
They do NA macro plays straight up. Like, I said one to LS before. I mean, if we had like. They do the same fucking Rift Herald bullshit where they like bring their AD carry for no reason and they stare at you at the Herald and like shit like that. Like, I don't know. It's super strange to see like LCK macro because it used to be so crisp, but now I feel like the macro is not even that good anymore. I feel like the team fighting is still good. Like, they understand like formation really well and like, okay, this is how we want to like play the fight out, like tanks in front, and then they play the team fights well. But I just don't like a lot of like the decisions, and I feel like there's way less like cross mapping in LCK. I'm not sure if it's because of the lack of vision. That's something that I think about a lot when I watch LCK. Maybe because you had more vision in the game before, people were more okay with like pushing outside lanes and cross mapping in LCK, and like because a lot of the mentality that people have in like in LPL games is like there's times where like a death won't matter in the side lane. Like, you can push out 2 waves top, and if they send 4 people for your top laner and it's like 3 minutes until Dragon and no Barons up, like no one cares in LPL. It's like, oh, whatever, they killed that guy. Okay, collect your fucking gold. He got the waves and everyone's happy. Feels like LCK really is like risk adverse and they're afraid to die in those types of situations. So I feel like there's just a lot less like macro in the region than when I used to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I don't know what the real reason is behind the LCK thing, but like when I say that they're like strategically stunted, I mean their ideas of champion picks are always behind other regions. They can't itemize, they can't rune. Their macro, like what Dom's pointing out, is pretty fucking bad in general, right? It's all very cookie cutter, very, very, very surface level. But then you'll even have things like the DRX. Like, DRX is like, I mean, I was trying not to say it live, like on broadcast, right? Because it was an LCK co-stream, but like, it's no surprise DRX macros like their CLG. You know, you just have to go to the wiki page and find out why, maybe. So I mean, there's that, right? So
don't you dare compare my boy Facecheck to Brock. So that man is trying, all right? Facecheck is trying, all right? Like, he doesn't have much to work with.
So yeah, no, LCK is really weird, for sure. And I think that there's a lot of other things that might be causing it with the players, like for instance, all the academy players, right? Because all the teams have anywhere from 1 to 5 teams. You know, like including their starters. So like T1 has the initial 5-man that everyone sees, right? Then they have the 10-man.
2 teams playing in their first team. It's crazy.
Yeah, so they have the 10-man. They have the 10-man roster. So that's 1 team and 2 teams, right? And then they have the academy team, which is called Third League or something. And then they have a 4th team, and then they have a 5th team. But the 5th team isn't like an actual like thing. It's like a trainee program thingy. I don't know how to describe it. Gen G, to my knowledge, has 5 teams. Africa, to my knowledge, has 4. There's a shitload of players like that no one sees, and I wonder if this actually causes more job security or like fear for all the lower and middle of the pack players than it does for any of the top tier players. And maybe that results in the passiveness and just like the sheep mentality that goes into everything that they do. I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's not good. I mean, not a good look.
I mean, it's strange for sure. Also, like, you see players like change over time, and that's like what's always weird is to see players that like had like some like flair or some spark or something like special about them. Like, that's how I used to view Khan, right? Like, he was like a special top laner. He would take fights that like no one else would take, and he would just find ways to win them. Like, he was like known for like Fiora like 1v2 outplays and stuff like that. And he had all these picks like where when he was, it was like, oh shit, Khan's on his Jax. He's on his Fiora. Oh, like every single one of his picks like had a special flair where you could watch without the nameplate and tell it was Khan in his like highlight, because he was doing things that no one else in the world was doing on those picks. I don't feel the same way when I watch him. Like where he's like devolved. The other player that I feel like is like that I've noticed a lot is Clid. Like I feel like Clid used to have like this really insane mechanical ceiling, and he would take fights that might not be like the best fights, but just because of like he would be able to outplay, he would end up like winning the situations. But it feels like Clid has just became so like he's only going to do like the right thing. Like it's almost like the fucking like the outplay like potential that he used to have was just beaten out of him, where it's like, all right, now you will just make like the right play 20s all the time. Like just like you will always be the smart player, where, you know, now I feel like I've lost something when I watch him. You know, it's like he still plays well some of the games, but it doesn't feel like old Clid. Like Clid from season 9, for example, even season 8, when he was in China, but like season 9 specifically when he was with T1, which like normally you'd think of like T1 being the team that you'd probably be like the most safe. Like that's your TSM of Korea, which I'll get into later. But like he had that like insane mechanical ability on his Gragas, on his Lee Sin to just take over games, just jungle gap the enemy, and just like, you know, completely trust in his ability to overperform in even situations. Now it feels like I never see Clid fight even situations. It's always just like you're playing to like your strong side always. Like you're always like looking for like outnumbered fights. If like, you know, there's a win condition, you're always going to go towards it, which I don't think is the best way to play League. I feel like at the end of the day, League is something where you have to be able to play the game like a game, like see what's happening and adapt your strategy in game as a jungler to what's happening around the map. I never see Clid do that. Clid is just always just going to do the right thing.
Like the optimal thing, like the.
Yeah, well, it's not even like the optimal thing, because like in my mind, like there are times where like you can have a lane that's supposed to be your weak side, right? But if the lane is killable, you can go up there, collect your fucking gold, and like you can get an advantage in your weak side. And having a stronger weak side does matter in the game. Like if you get your weak side ahead, there's times where your weak side will not be diveable throughout the game. Your weak side will be able to even like pressure out 1v1. He'll be able to have first move. Like you don't have to play things so strategic where it's like you have a weak side and a strong side. You can only go towards your fucking strong side. You can never go towards your weak side. Like you don't have to play the game like that. Like that's not actually the best way to play the game. You see it all the time. Like that's the reason why I always watch LPL and why I think that LPL is so scary, is they're so adaptable to situations. If somebody takes a bad trade and the matchup, like it's supposed to be played out, like in an ideal world, the matchup is 50-50 and this guy has push, whatever. If that guy that has push takes a bad trade, jungler's fucking diving in level 3. Like you're not going to let him just catch the wave, TP back, and just like restabilize the matchup. Like you can exploit the things that are happening in game. And I never see Clid actually do this anymore. Like he used to be so good at this shit where he would just find a million fucking kills on the map. And now it's like, okay, you're diving with your laners. Like you were just like a piece of the puzzle. You're not exceptional like you were before.
LS, we touched on T1 just a little bit. I wanted to give your thoughts on their season, their multi-man roster, and without getting you in too much trouble, on the direction that they're going.
I don't think I can comment on the roster thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I can comment on that.
Okay.
I mean, I said it pretty through and throughout the season. T1's drafts are like they're just not good. They're consistently at a disadvantage. If they had even neutral or like slightly losing drafts, they probably would have finished top 2 for sure. But in my mind, there's no excuse to not have just won this split with how weak Damwon is compared to last year. T1 should have won the split. I mean, there's no excuse with that roster. T1 should, from my point of view, I mean, the roster can win the split. I mean, you have the best bot lane in the world. Teddy and Carry are just the best bot lane. Faker is back in top 3 form in LCK. And the top teams, Genji and Damwon, I mean, they're both beatable. Especially with how they both draft. Like, Gen G have the most scaling drafts, right? But so the thing I've been talking about, like, is the process. Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to talk to you about is, like, do you think the Faker is actually top 3? Because, like, I believe Faker should be top 3, but then I saw, like, I feel like he got outperformed by BDD in the Gen G series. Like, he got solo killed. Like, there was times where, like, he was winning the Orianna Victor matchup, and then he just ended up, like, losing his lead, like, roaming to things. Like, I feel like so when I hear you say top 3, I'm assuming you're saying Chovy, Showmaker, and then like Faker third.
Faker. And then Faker BDD were always like third, fourth, right? Like interchangeably. But I think Faker over the split, probably, I think he's probably third. And I understand that like Closer was playing like a lot of the games and other stuff, right?
Just for me, like when I think about like Faker, right, and I have him in my mind, and then I see him like R into the turret as Zoe and get fucking solo killed by BDD, and then BDD flashes forward on him, and he has his flash, and he doesn't even react flash it. I just feel like that's not the same Faker. You know, like the other Faker that I remember watching was like mechanically like perfect almost. Where now I don't get that same feeling. The
Syndra Zoe solo kill?
Yeah, that one.
That was. I remember watching that live. I thought that was really impressive. Like. Normally, when I think that I think from that perspective, I think BDD, like that one was just fucking nice by BDD.
I thought it was really nice by BDD. Really? Like you don't think he should flash when he sees BDD flash?
I thought the space. Let me watch it again. Let me. If my memory serves correct, the spacing was so thin that it was like literally like a centimeter, right? The turret range. Or like,
yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like in that matchup, if he wants to pressure like that, right? Like he lands a bubble under turret, he goes for the Q under turret. If the Syndra flashes, you flash. That's what I think. I think that like in the matchup, you'll maintain pressure. Like I feel like it's good for you to flash trade in that situation if you're Zoe. And like the only way that he ends up losing the matchup is if he loses his flash or like if he gets solo killed like that. So why not? Yeah. Why not flash? Flashing Syndra R? No, obviously he's flashing the Syndra E, chat. That's what I'm talking about. Like he should flash the EQ that comes out from the Syndra. I mean, Syndra obviously plays it well. Like Syndra does the EQ, like whatever bullshit where you can't see the stun. Yeah. Like I still think that this is like a situation where like in a crucial game like that, especially in that timing, because I think it was right before Dragon 2, it's like really bad death.
Yeah, it was right before Drake. I mean, Drake's about to happen.
And then I think they just spawned the Herald mid too, where it's like that's your window for plating. Like that's a horrible time to die.
Yeah, I mean he clicked back in. I mean he's at the edge of turret range.
Yeah. I mean I would have to watch it again. I just remember like seeing it. And I'm like
he could flash out. Syndra was flashed and then she flashes forward. I mean she was slept and then she flashes forward. Yeah.
And I just feel like it's such a big loss because didn't the Herald didn't crash there, I think, as well. So they like T1 has this position to win. What was it? Game 3? Was it game 3? Game 2? I don't remember which game it was.
T1 was in a good position, and I'm pretty sure game 2.
Yeah. Okay, no. So this was game 3 when it happened. So it's right before Drake, and they're trying to put Herald mid. So, they have Herald. I guess the Herald doesn't matter. Never mind. The Herald's not. It's just right before Dragon is the main thing. But like when I see this, it's not like vintage fake.
I mean, the comps were doomed. I mean, I think that they were doomed. I remember watching live, and I just didn't want to watch. Like it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, the draft before this was like I think the worst draft of the series, the Nidalee Jace one.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like the Nidalee Jace, they actually got like hard out drafted by Gen G.
Yeah, but they got big lead, right? That was it. That am I thinking of the right?
Yeah. That was the right. That was the game where they had
the
big lead topside. But I think that they got really like 5-headed by Gen G because Gen G took like I think that Gen G's strategy, right? They banned out all the 80 tops. They banned out like Aatrox, Renekton, like all those 80 tops, and then they took Set and flexed its support, and then took Sion, probably knowing that Set top was going to be what T1 wanted in that game. Like if T1 has Set top with Nidalee, then they have Set into Sion. People like Set into Sion because obviously you can ult him in team fights and do $1 million. Like I feel like that actually like they got fucked because they got pinched with their champion pool and they didn't have another pick. that was an AD top laner that could actually match, because they already had like Nidalee and Zoe, I believe. So they have AP mid, AP jungle. So they need an AD top, and then Set was taken away from them, and Sion was taken away. So like they can't even go like tank versus tank top. They can't go Cho'Gath, or they're too AP heavy. So yeah, I feel like they really blundered by either not taking Sion on 4 or not or not banning out the Sion if they like since they saw the Set on 2-3.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, T1. I mean, even the series against DRX, if you watch that one, I mean, they committed felonies in that for sure. Like, it was, I mean, the fact that they went up against Genji was already a surprise in itself. Because there's definitely a world where they were down 0-2 to DRX, and they probably lose the series. Yep. But, you know, as fate would have it, they ended up moving on to face Genji. But, like, obviously, I'm really worried going into summer.
Yeah. I mean, hey, like I'm gonna just say it now. T1, I call them T1 SM because they are the TSM.
Oh boy.
They are literally the TSM of Korea. You know, not only are they just like the third place team or whatever, it just looks like they perform, like when you look at the parts they have, they always perform, like in recent years, they perform worse than what you'd expect, right? Like when you see rosters like this, you're expecting a roster like this to be like the best team, like either competing with Damwon like heavily for the top spot, or potentially the best team in Korea, one of the favorites to like win worlds. Like that's what you expect when you see this lineup of players. But it feels like they are just like consistently worse than you would expect. Their drafts are weird, just like TSM's draft are weird. But then also the way they lose games. Like I just hate watching T1 lose, because when T1 loses, it feels like they're just like, they just do this. They just go out like busters, you know, like they don't really like fight tooth and nail. Like they're not like putting it, like taking the stand in the points of the games where they need to take the stand. It looks very half-assed. It's like, oh, I guess we lose this one. And then they just like kind of, you know, do whatever and end up losing. I just don't see like the fire in that team. Like it just seems like it's like TSM at Worlds when they go 0-6, where it doesn't even look like they like left it all on the rift, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I was pretty disappointed by 2 on the split. I wanted to see more.
Bedge.
That's all you got for me. You just got a Bedge after that?
Bedge, yeah.
Holy shit. Well, you don't like me just saying that Faker is the power of evil of Korea? No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus.
I don't actually think that.
It's not that rough, you know. It's not, you know, it's kind of sad. God damn it.
Also, like, damn, I kind of felt like if they were gonna go for drafts like they did in Game 1 versus Genji, I feel like Gumayusi would like. I feel like if you're going like resource heavy, I feel like Gumayusi is like the player for that. You know, like I feel like Teddy is like the person that's gonna play like better throughout the game if it's just like you know, even situation. But when I think of like a Thresh Aphelios lane in that type of game, I feel like that is Gumayusi written all over it.
Yeah, Gumayusi is really insane mechanically. So a lot of people don't realize this, but I'm not connected like to the team. Like I always get asked questions. I think people just think that we're given insight or intel that we just don't actually have, you know?
I mean, it's just also something that like, I mean, I could probably find out if I really wanted to. Like I have like the fucking players added and stuff, and like I could really like fucking be like a nosy like person, but I feel like that just like if the team is struggling, the last thing they want is some like content creator being like, hey, like let me give my fucking input, even though I haven't like seen the fucking scrims, or like I have no clue what the team environment is like. I have no clue what like the actual like stem of the problems are, besides for what's obvious to me like when watching the game. So I just feel like it's just not like my place to like try to like help C9 in these times of crisis. They have like a coaching staff for that and stuff.
Man, I can't imagine if you guys just went in and were like, hey, this. It's almost like so unimaginable, except it happens at TSM when Daddy Reggie comes down, cracks the bell. All right, boys, playoff time. Time to whip him into shit.
Wait, is that what it is? Does T1 just have like a Reginald behind the scenes that like makes the players just
That's
crumble under pressure?
LS. Who is it?
Is LS the Reggie of
LS
T1?
is the Reggie of T1.
Yeah, all right, put it in the title.
That's the title.
T1 has had several different staffs over the years and managements too. So it's never been the same.
So it's
that's what TSM says. They're like, oh, we've had all these
different.
different coaches and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, it's like, how much say do the coaches actually have in TSM?
Yeah. I mean, I think we get a lot of good glimpses from TSM Legends as well as like the stream highlights that come out, right? About inner TSM stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It helps not use that much conjecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a pretty cool thing that showed up on the LCK broadcast. They have before their matches, so everyone has something like really cool production wise. In the LEC, they have like their super cool, like they were loading the matches and the intro music before each game. Like it felt pretty epic. I enjoyed watching that. In the LCK, they have their
the best part about LCK is the Mad movies. Like, that's just what it is.
Exactly. It's the Mad movies.
The best part about LCK is the Mad movies.
And so they have like a pregame Mad movie where they break things down. And so in the playoff match between T1 and DRX, they did this really cool stat, I guess, or I don't even know what to call it, where they showed all the different roster variations of T1. I'm going to put it on the screen now. And then showed the win percentage of it to kind of give an idea on the different variations that they tried this year, as well as the win percentages that were there with them. So you could see, Kana, Zeus, Elim, Owner, Cuz all getting different runs, Closer, Faker, then the Teddy, Gumiasi, and then Carrier being there the whole time. I'll back up. And so that we have that. I know that we want players to get opportunities, but aren't you worried that the result could be like, hey, look at all these losses that we had, and if we would have just stuck with our top roster here with Kana, Cuz, Faker, Teddy, Kyria, you would have just got the dubs? Like, I feel like this is such a unique problem because they are willing to run the 10-man roster with players that if they go elsewhere to another region, they're probably going to be one of the best players in that region.
Yeah, wait, is it? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that for me, I would just expect that roster to not be the best by far, like it is. Like when I watch like Zeus play and when I watch Gumayushi play, I definitely think they could have value. I don't really like the Faker Closer swaps that much. Like I mean, maybe I'm just biased towards Faker. I mean, yeah, he's one of the greatest players of all time. I just never felt like Closer's upside was like so much that, all the intangibles that like Faker had would outweigh it. It's like if you took a better mechanical mid laner and then you had them play over perks and it was like, okay, like sure, but do they actually have like the clutch factor? Do they have that like champions resolve that Faker has? Like he's proven time and time again that that's like why he's one of like the GOATs, right? Like he knows how to win in clutch situations. And I just never thought that like, I mean, obviously we don't know about Closer, but I mean, I just feel like that is something that would be really valuable to a team.
But yeah, he has the clutch factor, but how do you find that, right? You have to put them in situations kind of like what T1 did, and then they end up going with the roster that had the most success, right?
Yeah, but they didn't actually even do it. They didn't even actually they didn't run like Closer in fucking the playoff series that mattered, right? Like they just went Faker every single time. So for me, it's like, yeah, I mean, it just feels like they didn't even fully experiment. It felt like if they wanted to experiment, they would have needed to see it through for longer than they did.
Like 100 Thieves, what they did with Ryoma. We got to see what Tommy Boy had. I think the last time T1 did this was the Easy Hoon era, and Easy Hoon got himself a fatty payout afterwards after they won the championship, and then he went to LPL, I believe. Was that when he went to IG? Was it IG Easy Hoon? I forgot. Chat, you can help me out.
No, he went to Vici.
Vici. There it is. Vici Gaming. Thank you. All right.
I mean, they gave Easy Hoon way more time than they gave like Closer though, right? Like they gave like Easy Hoon a fucking entire playoffs, right? They gave him like all of spring playoffs pretty much. Like they're like not all of spring playoffs, but they gave him all of the finals, right? The 3-0.
Is that what happened? So chat was saying, and LS, you can help me here because this feels like LCK history that I don't remember. Someone said Faker benched himself though. Like he did he ask for a break, or he was like, hey, I'm burnt out, or he had an injury or something, and that's why Easy Hoon like got that much playing time? I don't remember what happened.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not Pop Smithy. Okay, Pop Smithy could probably tell you the date time. He could tell you where the fucking sun was located in the sky. Like, like it's the weather maybe, and like 3 different countries. Like it's fine, but not me.
Okay. Well, there's that. I forgot. How could anyone forget the former P1 NV prodigy Pyrian? That's right. Pyrian also got some playing time behind Faker as well. Pyrian was really nice. He was a good interview. Okay. And then I think the next team that we wanted to hit on here was HanWhaLife. Let's hop on into it. So
can't wait.
We got HanWhaLife in here. And I'll leave this one to you. Dom, go ahead. Your thoughts here.
I mean, I feel like this is all LS right here.
Okay, just go ahead.
I mean, it's
take us to church, LS.
Yeah, I mean, it's Chovy Life Esports. I mean, that's literally that's all it is. The only reason to tune into this team, Chovy. That's literally it. I mean, it's like, so the analogy that I gave on stream during the co-stream, right, is it's like watching Superman surrounded by kryptonite, but then still trying to save the world. Like that's actually just what it is. I mean, he literally has at times 4 teammates just dragging him down. Like Deft sometimes shows up and Deft is like there, but then most of the time Deft is also sometimes dragging him down. It's really like Superman and Batman. It's like it's the relationship, where like Batman's human tendencies like sometimes just causes a fucking problem. But like this is just like I don't know. Chovy's pretty much an enigma though. If like NA fans or Western viewers never watch LCK and they watch this episode or something like that, Chovy is the best CSer in the entire world. It is bizarre what ends up happening. If Chovy has like 11 CS a minute, he's probably having a bad game. Like
doesn't he average like 12 CS a minute in solo queue? Like that was insane.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Chovy's he's something else. It's but he does it in losing matchups. He out CS's the opponent. And it's really, really, really weird. I remember there was one game, I think it was at 23 or 25 minutes, that just because of his CS alone, he was up like an entire core item. He had like 270 farm at 23 minutes, and I think on Oriana or something like that. He had death cap, Seraphs and Ludens.
Did he actually win that game?
I mean, but anyways, yeah, HanWhaLife Esports, it's pretty weird because if you look at Chovy's career, right, he's done this across several teams, but he's kept getting better every year, at least from my perspective. But he's always surrounded, except for the Griffin iteration, right, where he actually had 3 teammates, like including himself. And then they had like they had the island. They had like Riker's Island up there in top right. Like I'm not really sure what's going on, but ever since then, he's always been surrounded by teammates that are nowhere near his caliber, and yet he always manages to drag them through playoffs or to the finish line in so many different games. So, like, I think Chovy's just the best player in LCK. Overall.
Yeah, he definitely looks like it. I'm so confused about the jungle situation because I swear, like, okay, so I'm a Johan hater, right? Like, mainly, like, do you remember that Rek'Sai game that he played during the split where he just like camped top and just died like a million times? Like he like failed his like flash knockups and like it was just horrible. I just don't see what advantage. I swear HanWhaLife always looks better when they play with Arthur Morgan instead of fucking Johan. But for some reason, Johan always gets games. I don't understand like what Johan brings to the table that makes him a better fit for HanWhaLife than Arthur. Do you have any take there?
So my hypothesis is that it could just be maybe. I mean, it could just be Chovy, right? Like I would imagine it might just be that. And the reason that I say that is because if you listen to some of the voice comms from teams of previous years, Chovy just has a lot of authority on everything that's going to happen. There's one that stands out to me in DRX, and I remember this stands out to me because one of those mentally ill cretins that's like in every thread. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
You
just say Mr. Prater, dude. Like, we know he lives right.
No. It's not Mr. Prater. It's not Mr. Prater.
Okay.
But I remember I was casting the game, but then I commented on it in the listen in, because you know how LCK does like the mic check thingy. I commented about how Chovy was like the leader of the team, right? But the whole fucking narrative, especially because of like the Horizon interviews and like all this other stuff, right, is that Def's the leader because he's the oldest.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
The actual mic check from the game was the players start telling each other to like shut up, right, and to just like be calm because they're distracting Chovy, and they literally just say, just follow Chovy. They literally just said, just follow Chovy, like whatever he does. Chovy's not talking, right, but they're like, just be ready to go in.
Damn.
And he was on Aurelia. Like I mean, someone could probably find the game, but it was they literally just told each other to be quiet because they're distracting him. And I'm like, okay, like if this doesn't, like, what's going on? Like, what?
I mean, Def just doesn't seem like he would ever be a leader, though. Like, if you know, like, Def who he was in his career and stuff like that, like, he's like somebody who would be like, you know, like, he's like the quiet star where you just kind of like let him do his thing and he's going to carry the game. He's more of like a reckless type to me when I think of like who he resembles. He's not somebody who's going to be like, I need the fucking resources, do this. Like, this is how we're going to fucking win the game. Like, that just doesn't sound like him.
He's the reckless with the perks.
The other thing about those comms, I mean, it might come from like the Griffin era where they were known for not talking. Like that was their thing, right? Is that they don't talk while team fighting.
I like that.
Yes, I like it too. I also think that I think that like silent scrims, and I think that like so for instance, whenever I listen to like NA comms, I mean it causes pressure.
Silent scrims is something every team in the world should run.
Yes.
There's so many different things. Oh man, there's so many different strategies.
Where you suck. Really, it makes it really clear.
Wait,
it's going cold turkey. That's what it is. It's going cold turkey. When you have comms, it's like taking medicine, right? It removes the symptoms. Or like it might not cure what you have, but
I see.
Right? You don't feel the pain.
It fixes bad brain because
right
because someone else is thinking for you.
Carrying you. Yeah, someone else is right. So when like when a jungler says like, "Oh, you should have told me to gank." No, motherfucker. You should realize the gank is obvious.
Or and as a laner, you should know where the fucking jungler is too.
Yes, right. It goes both ways. Right, it goes both ways. So this is why I'm a really big comms hater. I hate the narrative about communication. I really, really fucking hate the word communication. I really hate people when they say that comms are important. They're not. Like, because ultimately League is just fucking it's a language, right? If you go back in time so many years, current like present day tower dives where like people juggle turret aggro, or like, you know, they juggle certain spells, they use Zanyas and stuff, like you know, complex turret dives. Obviously, people don't need comms to coordinate those. Right? They just understand, like, if all of their game knowledge is at a high enough level, comms only become necessary when there's a gap between player skill, because the better player has to tell the worst player what to do, right? The reason I don't like comms as like an argument is because people think that both should have equal input, but it's like really weird. I mean, this is a whole episode in and of itself, right? Talking about like comms.
No. This is fascinating. This is absolutely Esports. Fascinating.
But Griffin was so good because you listen to their mic checks, they don't talk. Like, it's either you understand what's going on or you don't. And I think most LCK teams are actually like this.
What the fuck are you supposed to be saying in a team fight? Like, what do you think it really helps that much in a team fight to have Trimby yelling in your ear, "Ellie, no flash! Ellie, no flash! Ellie!" Like, what the fuck? Yes, we're gonna hit the fucking Alistar that's in front of us. What else are we gonna fucking do? Like, the only times, like, there's only like small things that should be fucking communicated. It's like, hey, like, if the AD's flash is like 10 seconds or something, it's like AD has no flash for 10 seconds. Like, that could be really useful of like input of communication into the fight, just so that everyone's on the same page, like reading the fight the same way. I think that there should be like some level of like prep going into the fight of like just like generally just like an idea of like how we want to fight it front to back, like whatever. This guy has no flash, and then like then it should just play out. Like you should just know what's gonna happen afterwards. So
yeah,
I think that there's like a bunch of things. When I was talking to Nelson, he said that 3 things that LPL does a lot of, or 3 things that LPL does that like I haven't heard of in NA, is they do silent scrims. So they do a scrim set with zero comms. Then they also do a wardless scrim. Like they don't do this like every fucking day. They're not doing multiple sets, but they do a wardless scrim so that they have to like track the jungler and the enemy team based off just communication. And like they have to get like they're trying to get better at like predicting the things they might not see in game. Want to support resets with the jungler, like where they could be going, that type of stuff. And they also just do like first 10 minutes, like just like micro scrims where they play against their challenger team and they just like reset the game after like the first like 10 minutes. So they don't do like a bunch of these remakes in scrims like NA does. They do purposeful like 10 to 15 minute scrims where it's like we're playing until first herald, we're playing until first dragon, something like that. Like let's just try to like, you know, tune in the early game like as much as possible. So I feel like all 3 of those could be like really useful to at least run on one day, right? Like if you have 4 days, right? Maybe you do it on like if you don't want to have an off day that week, you do it on your Monday where you do like some drills to try to like help the player. And I think it'll be like kind of fun for players. It's a way to break up the monotony of scrimming the same way all the time. Like you have one day where you do like different drills so that like, you know, you're able to get things done that other people don't. So I mean, dude, if I was a fucking coach in NA, I would implement this shit instantly. I feel like it's such like an underused skill set. Like the idea of just fucking scrimming 5-on-5 all the time the same way every single day, like I mean it's just not good. Like if you think about how it is as a player, like they all just start fucking it's like highway hypnosis at a point. Like it all just fucking blends together at a point and then you just become a zombie. You're not even like really like thinking the same way you normally would think anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then obviously I think there will be people that fail reading comprehension tests, right? That think that I mean that you should never ever talk, but obviously that's not what I'm saying, right? The idea that you need to have like conversations in a game or like multiple sentences like being strung between each other is not like the case. Most stuff can be done very, very simple with a very limited vocabulary. You know, because people should be able to infer what you mean by like basic things.
So there was one
scrims with your eyes closed. Yeah, you have to play only off feel. Holy shit, that's the next level. Blind scrims.
That's the next one. Yeah,
we got a bunch of them.
I mean, we see some of that gameplay in NA.
only
they don't do it in scrims. They do it on stage. We got to reverse it.
Only Q scrim, touchpad scrims, no
Holy
keyboard
shit,
scrims.
Master Fiend becomes the best player of all time. Touchpad scrims. Holy shit.
There was a question about
when do we get the hot tub scrims? Like what? When's that meta?
Well, look, honestly, at this point with how NA is like trying to progress, like the way they had them all in that fucking booth with the sun in their eyes, they can't even see the screen like it's some fucking type of extreme sport. Like might as well just throw them in some fucked up situations. Like put them on fucking one of those like really like janky like fucking like private jets or whatever, and have them playing like that while like the guys like a military pilot like doing loops and shit.
He's doing a barrel roll and you gotta.
You have to be able to play under all circumstances. And just fucking get them to do everything, man. Respect.
There was a good question about the silent scrims that one of the viewers had. It was, if there is an aggressive option and a passive option, if you're not communicating, like not that either one was wrong, like how do you get on the same page of that?
I feel like there's not aggressive and passive in this game. I feel like there's just right and wrong. Honestly,
right. There's just right and wrong. Yep.
There you go.
This is the other. I mean, I hate another word I really hate, because I don't really like the word opinion when it comes down to things. Right? It's either I'm not understanding something or you're not understanding something. Like generally, right? It like sometimes there might be a really fucking weird thin gray area.
Sure.
Generally, it's not the case though. When you go step by step, generally it's not the case. People should be able to agree on freeze frames.
I wonder if people, I guess the general player base or viewer base believes in this gray area is much larger than what it is, so that they can because when you play, people aren't willing to get to the bottom of it, so you have to be like, it's just in this gray area.
the thing is that you can say that there's a right and there's a wrong, right? And something can be right until new information is brought forth.
Right.
When new information is brought forth, you need to be willing to alter your opinion. But based on current knowledge or current information, I think that there should generally be like a one answer thing. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, if you go back in time, right? Like, if you don't acknowledge that like the insec is a possibility, right? You might determine that some spots with Lee Sin are just losing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But
cool.
then
That's
when
a
you
great
know about
example.
the insec, then it's like, oh, actually the spot's winning. But if you don't have that knowledge that the insec is possible, or that like it you know, it's really easy to do, or like all this other stuff, or yada yada yada, you might determine that it's losing, right? And then the problem with this is that it gives the cretins like the thing where it's just like, oh, well, you're just not entertaining the same information, right? Like as other people, right? But like that's where it gets really nitty gritty, where you lay out the foundation, you go step by step, and you're like, okay, there's nothing here, right? Now, also, it's not as it's not the same as it was in season 3. We have so much more. The game is way more understood now than in season 3, right? And we can ask a lot of the similar questions that people used to ask, you know, back in the day. And you can apply a lot of different scientific method to a lot of different situations that come up. So it's not that like new things don't appear, it's that it's a lot more rare, I would say, that new information becomes present that would alter you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just also like I definitely think there is going to be a need for some communication, but I feel like that's like the whole point of scrims is like people should be just progressively like understanding other people's roles and understanding like the other people's like champions that they play like in metas and stuff, like to a higher level. Like, of course, if you like, I mean, we talked about it before, you know, like if you play with a really, really good one trick, a lot of times they'll like tell you to do things that like you might not know are possible because you're not like familiar with the champion, especially it's weird.
Right.
So right now, like I'm actually experiencing a lot because I randomly just started like a Shaco only account. I'm going back to my fucking roots, and I can tell like when I'm playing it because Shaco is not like super popular. Or like, I mean, it's popular, but it's not like seen every game or whatever. People don't know which fights you can fight and which fights you don't. Like, they don't understand like how your champion works. Like, they don't know that like, for example, when you auto and then you ulti, your clone copies your Hail of Blades, so like it has super like attack speed and stuff like that. So like you can fight certain fights if you're able to get off like the auto into like ulti combos. People aren't aware of that. So like obviously if somebody was to pull out like Shaco that was like a Shaco fucking player in a scrim, you'd have to like fill your team in to like get to some point. I just feel like a lot of the times like basic things are like not understood, which is like that's like the issue. Like if you don't know like Hecarim's engage range, or you don't know like the possibilities for like where the champion should be able to come from, like where he flanks from, how he plays out, like that's what's frustrating to me. If like you play a whole split of Hecarim Udyr and you still don't know what you can fight, what you can't fight, like that's like what is going on in the scrims? How are you actually playing better?
Yeah, I agree.
I think this episode did not stay on LCK as long as I thought it would, but we got a lot out. We hit the LCS, we hit MSI.
I mean, LCK is tough to have to show around because like I feel like a lot of it is irrelevant, right? Like who wants to talk about
Brian?
Reddit Brian? Like no one wants to talk about Reddit Brian. Like
what are you talking about? They're one of the only teams that took a set off of Damwon.
True. I mean, they did actually take a set off of Damwon, so I don't know what I can say about that. Like, I just felt like when I saw that, it was just like, damn, Damwon's playing a lot worse than they were before. But I feel like that was before Damwon realized that Khan was like a weak side only player. Like now they've like kind of went back into their identity where they're like, you know what? Like, let's just play fucking Khan on weak side every game. Just pick him Scion. He'll probably do fine.
It was interesting also to hit through the structure of the amateur scene in the LCK. I looked up the Leaguepedia. There's just so many teams and so many players there that I think it'd just be interesting if you were able to pluck one of those guys up and put them in as your import in a team like 100 Thieves that felt like they were one piece away. But we won't be getting that here in the future. Maybe something will give more access to teams and coaches and decision makers to the players in other regions soon in the future. All right, y'all. We are off next week. So no Facecheck next week. And then we'll be back the week after that, the week before MSI, which starts in May. I believe it is May 1st or 5th, something like that. Yeah, it's May 5th. So, or May 6th, whatever. And we'll be back for an episode then. So don't worry, we'll be back. We'll give our pre-MSI update. And of course, any other LCS or league news content, we'll make sure to hit that. Guys, what do you have for the next 2 weeks? Anything that you wanted to plug, Dom?
No, not really. I'm just going to start playing solo queue again. I'm literally just going to play for fun. Like, that's actually what I've started doing because there's no point of like sweating your ass off and getting mad in NA solo queue. You might as well just play things that are enjoyable for you so that at least when the game goes to shit, you know, you can kind of like, you know, have some fun.
LS?
I don't know. I'm not really doing anything. I don't know if I'll do anything. I mean, I'm just waiting for MSI, but I don't know if I even do MSI. So I don't know.
All right, well, we'll see what the plans are and what the plays are later on. Of course, you can catch this episode and many other episodes of Facecheck over at VENN Esports. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you all next time here on Facecheck.
Hey, I want more videos about esports. Well, thank goodness there's a place for you to do that. You should subscribe. I mean, you should subscribe. Why do you sound like me? I don't know. Subscribe.